The players of Star Trek Adventure's First Response would like to thank the Complex Games Apologist.
All right, so here is our team recap, our footnoted recap. My understanding is that upon our, let's see, exactly where did that start? Well, I don't need to actually narrate every last little bit. Suffice to say that confronted with the catastrophic circumstances following our first session, our captain made a series of rapid fire decisions involving us heading to the planet as an away team, specifically the three of us. We have several things that we now know more about regarding our own ship, including the sensor expert guy, the officer,
science officer.
Yeah, who is clearly, a rugged veteran of many a rescue mission. And we've also managed to get quite a bit more information about the specifics. We were very focused on the specifics of the injured parties. So we didn't scan the Potemkin further. We didn't send a team to the Potemkin. We didn't, try to get some large-scale geo-analysis of the planet or, scan its core, because we learned that the disturbances are coming from the core, but we didn't go and try to scan that and analyze it. We said, all right, we've got injured people, injured beings. We're going in. So heavy duty prioritizing was clear. So in the thick of the dangers of the planet, we needed to the collapsing station, we needed to extract some heavily wounded people. And this was some nice interaction among us. You definitely had, the idea of us proceeding one step at a time with linked arms, everybody perception rolling as we go. Screw it, Korshakov's underneath, then the busted door, and people are kind of, it seems to me, deploying in a much more effective way than just player character party tries to survive. We were mission focused, right? So we do that, and briefly through a series of athletic and very committed actions on all three characters' part, we were able to get the wounded people at least close to the teleporter lock zone. That's our problem. We need to get them into that place where someone just has to hit a button and we're instantly beamed up without any of the vzz, vzz, vzz going on. And but we aren't, my understanding is that we have kind of 1 foot one foot up into that spot. Now the larger problem is that some form of, I don't know whether it's, we'll have to debate whether it's waves or particles, right?
Particle
but
wave.
there is, right, yeah, but there is a beam composed of waves and or particles that is headed for our ship from apparently the core of the planet, if I remember correctly. And all of us, kind of as audience, as players, are thinking, we're about to get depopulated like the Potemkin was. We still have no idea. We have not been able to interact with the wounded parties, why they were frantically pleading or, berating the Potemkin crew for destroying them. So, that's the mysterious thing. Apparently, whoever it was who was sending that broadcast believes that the Potemkin is responsible for this catastrophe. And that's kind of interesting, because let's just hold on a second. This is reflective, right? And I'm not recapping right now. I'm just kind of reflecting here. We don't know why. I mean, if everything was fine, I mean, like fine, everything's fine, and then the Potemkin shows up. The Potemkin shows up and causes trouble. Wait a minute. The Potemkin is a hospital ship. Why was it there? Right? We need to kind of extract the chain of events here a little bit to get a better. Clearly, something was wrong first, or at least the Federation thinks so. And so the Potemkin shows up, and then somehow depopulated Potemkin. Right, poof goes the crew, leaving all their coffee steaming and the lights on and everything in classic horror mode. And then down in the station, then everything goes kerflooey, right? And tectonic plates start, wait, but it's not tectonic. It's some dreadful, it's not geological. It's some dreadful event has occurred in the core of the planet, and everything is now, falling apart.
Shaking and rattling. Yeah.
Right. And so all that terribleness is happening, but we don't know like which of those happened first. The Potemkin gets depopulated, the planet goes kerflooey, or vice versa. We don't know what the order of events is. We don't know. We really need to figure that shit out. But right now, the biggest problem, well, two problems. One, I'd prefer to get beamed up, and I'd rather get beamed up into a ship with people in it.
If you have your choice.
Those do seem like our immediate priorities. We've got bleeding people here. And thank you ever so much, Joyous GM. You have also landed us with two other individuals in the level below us with no, unless I can get a look at the handy wall chart of exits as Federation OSHA would require.
Right.
Unless I can get a look at that wall chart, it's not going to be, all that clear about how to get down to a lower level, which for all I know is fully collapsed by now anyway, right. Where there are more people. And if I remember your reflections, KC, they match a great deal with mine of really not looking forward to a trolley problem here. So although I tend to take the point of view toward the trolley problem that it's bullshit, and what more people say, more people, fuck you. What? What? this was
okay.
Supposed to be a logic problem, but anyway. But so KC, what am I missing? I mean, I know there were cool things along the way, but
pretty much on point. Everything's all there.
Did you see by any chance my chat about stereotypes of Asian American men in science fiction?
I believe that was on your page.
It was in my website. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I
You did. Okay. Yeah. So that was, at least thematically, that's one thing that is on my mind in terms of really liking Ensign Yang, who, as you said, is like, why do I have to be on the away team? But apparently you were, Captain says, and you were, and then what do you do? But, there you are, scanning things when you should, and
being awesome.
Helping pull things when a tricorder in one hand and a blood smeared helping hand in the in the other. That's great, right? It was very exciting for me as a player. So, but anyway, that's where I'm at with the recap. If there's anything else you can remember or want to add.
No, I think, yeah. I mean, I guess like the point that we should continue from is what happens to the away team, and do they make it to the landing zone or the transport zone where they can safely be beamed out, since we have the sensor lock trait. I believe it's
right. Right. The question is whether that advantage, which we bought.
Yeah.
Right. The question is whether that advantage, it's a mechanics question. Does that advantage obviate the need to roll to,
Or at
you
least
know,
reduce the difficulty at least.
right, or yeah, or make it easy or something. I don't know. I mean, that's my understanding of the system, is that that was bought as, you know, insurance
All that,
against this
yes.
moment.
Right.
But I
Because
don't, but it's
it's
up
going
to
to get
right.
harder to do the transport, and so you've got this difficulty reduction.
Right.
So yeah, a roll would still need to be made to rescue the people. The other issue is, and let's just launch right into the session, right?
Okay.
We had cut away from our landing party as they rushed down the hallway with their group of 5 rescued individuals, 2 of whom were gravely wounded. The other 3 were, you know, not life-threateningly wounded and able to function.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
You're rushing towards the beam out point, right? While everything is collapsing around you. Behind you, engineering, which perhaps it wasn't a point of interest earlier, but just in the perspective of OSHA that you were talking about before, is the source of power for this outpost. It will be responsible for maintaining power to the life support system, which would be somewhere else in the outpost. It will be responsible for maintaining the shields around the environmental dome. It will be responsible for a whole lot of things like turbo lifts and lights. It's busy tearing itself apart.
Right. No, that's one of the reasons why the whole, you know, 2 people below decks question is starting to look awfully, you know, difficult.
Right.
That's, I'm sorry, did you want to complete that thought,
if we
Anthony?
refer-
I don't know if you finished completing your
Yeah,
thought.
if we refer back to the first episode, the doctor, Jim, right, the chief medical officer, had told Korsakov that according to the Federation records, there were as many as 500 Federation souls operating this outpost.
That was a very, very troubling thought. If we save 5 out of 500, then we are super, super late. Right now, 5 is better than 0, but you know, it's a very brutal circumstance to, you know, throw poor Yang into, you know, face first.
Not to mention we have
right.
400 on the Potemkin.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's definitely priority B, not second priority, but priority B, right? You know, after, right. But nonetheless, you know, no joke. Anything that can, you know, from a security standpoint, from Korsakov's security standpoint, the risk of a thing that can do that, if he's thinking automatically in terms of weaponization, right? He's thinking that, you know, what can do that to a ship, completely putting aside the audience awareness that they could have hit the wrong vector on the dimensional widget and fucked everything up and just done it to themselves for all we know, right?
Doesn't have to be a weapon.
But you're right. But Korsakov is thinking obviously much more in terms of weaponization. It's his training. I have a question about mechanics.
Okay.
I had an idea for a thing I want us to have with us. Mm-hmm. Is a point of momentum spendable for an advantage? Based on just right.
What we're talking about is the opportunity cost for the item.
Right.
And they have variable opportunity costs.
Okay. Do you want me to describe the item?
Right.
Okay. I am thinking of a designed compact tool that unfolds very rapidly, and it's lightweight with light rods and a cloth framework. So it is effectively a stretcher with wheels. And it's just that it's so space age that, you know, you go click clack and it's not heavy duty. It can't be heavy duty.
Right.
Because it's supposed to be readily transportable and readily deployable. So it's not heavy duty, but it is well designed, and it is some clever Soviet came up with, who, in Kalashnikov logic, came up with, if I just pull on this, then the whole thing snaps open and you can put the guy on it right away. Right. So it's not, there's no hard light, there's no, LEDs, there's no.
And you specifically don't want it to be anti-grav.
Right, exactly. That's my whole point. None of that shit.
Okay.
It's just well designed. That's why I said space age, right? Not nanotech.
Not
space age. Right.
All right.
So
I like,
I'm thinking of that. And then and
like
having like a thing or one or two of those seems like something cool that we would suddenly, pop out and click clack, and it's like, oh, look at that thing. Cool.
Rather than get into opportunity cost for an item like this, which is non-technological, it's just convenient and light and makes sense for a rescue crew. The conversation from part B, where we talked about, do you have your full kit?
Correct.
The only part of that I needed to know is if you were taking phaser 1s or phaser 2s, and if you were taking the medical tricorder extension or not.
Right, but you didn't need to go like count our syringes or some shit. Right.
No.
Right.
So let's add that in as a crisis response standard thing, right? So we've this is the suede belt situation.
Right.
Like, we know that the Enterprise crew is serious when they're wearing the suede belt, and you're going into a collapsing outpost where you could lose atmosphere and all kinds of horrible things, and who knows how injured everybody is. So I have no problem with this stretcher being there.
Mm-hmm.
6 months ago, coming out with a car the size and price of the Gremlin was a gamble, but American Motors took it.
You're watching Channel 3, SF TV.
Right. Which means then
Mm-hmm.
that as we are rushing down this crumbling hallway, our two most injured individuals could be on these stretchers.
Oh, oh man, TV logic. That the screen comes up and we're seeing
it's
them
there
on it being rolled along.
Right.
Okay.
So we can have the captain, who, as we talked about but didn't get into detail in the last part, does have Vulcan strength. There is a system way to approach Vulcan strength. So you can be rolling one, and you two can be handling the other, because there are now obstacles. This place was cracking and crumbling on the way toward engineering, but now leaving engineering, that cracking has become, falling objects. And you guys are very familiar. You're experienced Star Trek, or you're experienced Starfleet officers. You know that there are only so many pads on the transporter. And in this condition, the people who are prostrate are going to be taking up 2 pads.
Oh my God. Okay.
So there are 6. They're taking 4. And one person among you used to be the chief medical officer. So to handle our missing player.
Up he goes. Right.
Okay. Meaning you guys will have to wait for the next round.
No, that's definitely clear. I'll throw in a bit of dialogue.
Do it.
Which is that I'm yet again cursing the fact that we didn't get that transporter refitted specifically for prostrate patients as planned.
As planned.
Stupid standard transporter just can't handle this,
Right.
It's yet another, refit that we didn't get.
No way the Potemkin has pads like this.
Yeah, Potemkin's got fucking, you can beam them up like in their whole kit of equipment. They've got a med bay in their transporter room. right? I mean,
Right.
or vice versa, I
Yeah,
should
yeah.
say, right?
Yeah, probably
Vice versa. They're
yeah.
trying, yeah. But they've got that set up. I mean, we're more like we're fucking
A ship of war.
running an ambulance out of a pickup truck at this point, right? So,
The Avicenna, formerly the Dauntless, is still very much a ship of war.
right,
Yeah.
right.
All right. So with a disconcertingly long, energizing buildup,
Mm,
right? As the
you
wounded,
bastard.
right? As the wounded parties begin to dematerialize and then rematerialize and then dematerialize again, right? Very long process. The hallway behind you, engineering finally goes, and the hallway is plunged into darkness, except for the emergency lighting, which is flickering. And so on the wall is one of those black panels with the orange cutout diagram of hallways,
Oh, thank God.
indicating that this point, this is the sublevel 5 cargo area, engineering area, hazardous waste material storage area, transporter pad. Right? So you beamed pad to pad, which made a lot of this all possible. There's not much down here in terms of an expected population, but this was the safest, most stable place to beam to and closest to heavy turbo lifts, standard turbo lifts, and of course, stairs, which do exist in the Star Trek universe.
Of course they do. Yes.
But there's also Jeffries tubes.
All right. Well, in that case, looking at that orange thing, I'll take one look at Yang, and I'm hoping that our nonverbal communication is clear. Are we going down to level 6?
I mean, since we are here and we have to wait for the next round, we might as well pick up the other 2 that's left out there. That should
And
fill up the
so
numbers.
while I'm doping out how we get, do we take the stairs, do we take the tubes, which one's closer, just going for speed at this point. I'm hoping that you'll maintain your scan or rejigger your scan for
Yeah, sure. I can do another sensor sweep.
are they alive,
Yeah.
yeah
Okay.
for example.
And
Yeah.
is there any more obstacles to get down there?
Right. What's our, you're doing the scan version, I'm doing the map version.
Right.
So
According to the map, the absolute fastest way down there in terms of distance are the Jeffries tubes because they're just a chute. However, it's slower movement.
right.
The turbo lifts, if they're not online,
No, screw the turbo lifts. Are you
there
kidding?
you go.
I'm not getting into an elevator.
Right. So it's stairs or ladders, and you have the option of both. And they're within easy striking distance.
Okay, I'm going for the ladders. In fact, I'll even say we'll take the ladders.
To do that slide down the ladder thing.
Yeah, well, we can't. Yeah, and we can't. I do not want to get stuck in the tube. Right. I mean, that's not going to do anybody. Won't do anybody any good if we get stuck in the tubes or suffocated there or something.
All right.
The ladders are right here. It's not like we have to sprint half a kilometer to get there. So
right. The tricorder indicates, right? I mean, it confirms what your senses are telling you that the energy being released by the vibration of the crust, right, is building, and it's reaching far beyond the structural integrity of this building. Worse,
we're not.
The surface is starting to collapse down.
Well, we sit here next to this transporter pad and die due to all these things, or we die rescuing
Doing
patients,
right.
or I believe I have a value.
I believe you do.
Yeah. Which is no excuses. Only
No
the right thing.
excuses.
Yeah. Only the right thing.
I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. And I kind of like Yang's value of a leader among men.
That's yeah.
Although then again, inexperienced and idealistic. However, we're going to end up phrasing that as something is.
Those are, I think, a very, very viable combination.
All right.
I get it.
If only there was determination. So, down we go. The tricorder also confirms something because engineering has just torn itself apart. All of the distortion caused by the erupting energy has been removed as a factor from the scan. And it's not two people down below you. It's two people on maybe a catwalk or a slightly raised position over a sea of people in a cargo bay.
Holy crap. All right, so let's get down there immediately. Let's get a communicator. You know, if God, I don't know if I can do this like in one hand at the same time, but what I really want to do is screw the teleporter lock. We can't get a sea of people onto that teleporter pad. We're going to have to get down in there, punch our communicator and say lock on again.
Right.
And and for God's sake, mass evacuation is something we should be able to do. That's what our shuttlecrafts are for, right? That's what our deploy. I don't know if there's time. Okay, we'll just report. The captain's going to have to deploy shuttles and do what they can.
Yeah.
So our job is to just get that info up and to get a teleport lock on us down there.
Right. The transporters will definitely be the fastest means.
Transporter, not teleporter. Oops.
But they're also really risky. The risk for the shuttles is they have no place to land because the surface is liquefying in a sense.
Right.
So, you know, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. But something has to be done. Other issue, which Korsakov would be well aware of, is there's no room on Avicenna for 500 to 900 people.
Ooh, which
so
gives me an idea, because there is room for 500 to 900 people on the Potemkin.
On the Potemkin.
Right. But captain's problem. Right now, they don't know shit about this upstairs.
Right, exactly.
Right.
All right.
So
So as we're going to cut away from this scene in a moment, as they come down, or as you two come down the ladder, right, and down a short hallway, you come into this heavily reinforced cargo area, right? Obviously, whoever the outpost governor is has a good head on his shoulders. He brought them down into the most structurally sound area in the outpost.
And if it's a cargo area, then maybe shuttle access isn't quite that bad.
Except it's on sub-level 6.
You never know.
You never know.
There could be, you know, right? You never know.
Or some
cargo,
kind of.
Right? There's some way, right?
Yeah, there's got to get the cargo down here somehow, right?
Right.
All right, so you come out, and it's not just patiently waiting people. There's all sorts of triage centers, and there's people leaning up against the walls with makeshift bandages. They've torn their uniforms for slings, and it's just
that's good that they're all organized, or even if there are, there's probably domestic arguments and pleading and
crying
all that
babies
shit going on. Right, all that shit's happening. But on the other hand, okay.
Right. And then we cut.
Gonna have to prioritize the severity of the wounds.
Right. People, they've got little knots, I guess, or little groupings of people undergoing care or organizing. In that case, by appearing, who's in charge? And I don't mean like top dog in charge with their hands on their hips looking over all of them, which would be too easy. But
there have got to be looking?
People. At the moment, I'm looking.
All right. Let's make this an insight check.
Sure.
With
I'm going to say insight and command. How's that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Insight and command.
And the reason that I'm going to be using my focus because my talent, because as you said, am I speaking or looking? I'm taking the cautious route.
There you go.
I don't want to say blah 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 out loud. I actually want to look first.
So does that mean that you're going to buy some dice with momentum?
I believe that's probably, I don't know. Does that mean, is that what a talent
You will
does?
need, I
That
believe you will need to buy
That
dice.
talent does that. Then I
Yes.
want to. Yes. Yes, I do.
okay.
So I've got my 2 dice.
Okay.
And I've got my, okay, no focus is at work here, I think. Oops. Oh, okay.
It's a very
You
fresh-
did this, the funky screen thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just quickly looking over my, with that.
So if you would like
And
to create an opportunity, which is game speak for buy dice, right?
Right.
Then the first one costs 1 momentum or 1 threat. If you buy it with threat, your talent doesn't activate because you're a cautious person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would prefer to use the momentum because A, we've got lots, and B, we've got plenty of threat already.
Yeah.
I'm usually a glutton for threat, but this particular time, I think I'd rather not.
You're allowed. You don't have to ask anyone's permission to use momentum. It's there to be used on your turn.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this has added 1 more die.
Yeah. Do I roll all 3 at once?
Yep, because they're
Okay.
yours. And this
Okay,
isn't
so
really something
quickly-
that someone can assist you
Right.
with. So
Now, if it's okay with you, it is insight and command.
Right.
So that's an 11 or less.
11.
And I have 1 success, not
1
2.
success is enough. I don't think I said
That's-
the difficulty, but the difficulty is
No,
is
but
1.
it struck me as not terribly difficult. I
Yeah.
totally get the 1 success part.
Okay.
Okay.
So as we fade away from this scene, we've got Yang and Korsakov coming through the heavy cargo bay doors, which are being held open by physical objects.
Right.
And it is a multi-level facility, and there are wounded on different landings of the staircases going down and on the cargo lifts going down. And it descends into darkness. The emergency lighting is kind of casting a very pale glow across, like I said before, a sea of faces, and they just fades into darkness in the background.
Right.
There's hundreds
Right.
of people down here, but you
Well-
spot standing up on a barrel,
Right.
right, in a blue shirt, someone from medical
Right.
is doing their best to coordinate security. Where the security officer is a mystery, right?
Oh,
But-
for God's sake. I mean, I'm not making any speculations about anybody that is obviously should be here and isn't, because they're probably vaporized, crushed, or
Crushed or-
impaled somewhere. I get all that.
Or both.
Right.
Right.
Totally get that.
So we change scene to the Avicenna. We are on the bridge. Umbuto is there. Anya Smith still has the con. All right. So those are the secondary characters who are present. Jane Finch has been relieved by some other helm officer, unnamed, not a secondary character. And there are various engineering crews who are still working on the security chief's program of improving the arrangement of the consoles, but they're working on the non-essentials for the emergency.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
who do you want?
I'm going to stick KC with Mbuto.
All right. So you're Anya. Casey, you're Mbuto. You're the life sciences officer. If you want to bring up the wiki, he's in there. And so is Anya, for that matter. Okay. As we fade in to the bridge, we hear the transporter chief reporting, right, the senior transport operator. We hear him reporting that there's difficulty holding the lock. Right? That's the point where we are. We're a little back in time. Okay. So they're beaming up the acting captain. They're beaming up the 5 wounded. This is where we are when we engage with the bridge. And the person working the communications console right now is saying, "Urgent message from Starfleet."
Okay. I'm playing Anya. And
Yes.
am I sitting in the big chair?
You got the big chair.
I just want to breathe for a second. First time ever playing in a Star Trek game, first time a character I'm playing is sitting in the big chair.
Controlled chaos all around. Right?
Well,
You have a
there's going to be a
helm
lot
officer.
more control.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more control in about 2 seconds. So the first thing I'm going to say is snap to the communications officer. What's the word? Delay, wait, hold, put them on hold, whatever the hell that word is. And then say quickly to Mbuto and say, can you strengthen that transporter? Can you strengthen the I cannot roleplay to save my goddamn life.
The transporter lock.
Signal lock.
In fact, it's not even can you. It's strengthen that transporter lock.
All right. Cool.
Will that be a sensor sweep check?
We'll do another sensors scan. Yep.
Right.
The difficulty.
Right. Backup transport with everything you've got with
But
the sensors.
I want to remind Mbuto, who is watching the particle wavefront, right, building and heading toward the ship.
Well, as you know, Mbuto has to readjust his, buttons and coordinates and stuff. He's going to shout that back to Anya that,
in that case,
particle beams are imminent
right.
on incoming. But at the same time, he'll still make his
Right.
check. So
Helm, full impulse, on my mark.
Interesting.
So,
And then I've got like the communication going with the transporter right now. What are they telling me at the transporter?
Right.
Energize at first opportunity. Energize.
Right. So you're hearing a report about what they're doing to strengthen the signal lock, and of course shields can't be raised because you're in the process of an active transport.
Not shields are for wars. Shields are for wussies on ships like the Enterprise.
All right. So the wave is intimate. You've given the command for the ship to change orbit. The helm officer hesitates for a second, like kind of starts to look over her shoulder, and then
Mbuto cuts in, says if you're going to move the ship, then you're just going to complicate the signal lock. So choose one of these.
No, my point is I want to get that hopefully we can get the transporter, get them on, and then scoot.
All right, then Mbuto turns back to the helm. So wait for me to finish first.
That's why I said on my mark. That's why I said on my mark.
So she's plotting a course, and of course she has access at that console to sensor information such as debris and things like that. So of all the people around the bridge, this helm officer is aware of this approaching wavefront. So Anya is able to see the tension rising in the shoulders.
Okay, in that case, Anya will actually hop down out of the chair and get face next to the helm and say, "Status?
On your mark, sir.
How about that beam?
Closing at 1/4 impulse power," which means it's
okay.
it's
and I'll actually put one hand on top of their hand on the impulse button, without pushing. Just put one hand, and then put my other hand over there on the button that says shields and says, "One of these."
Okay.
And I'll snap over my shoulder and I say, "I need that transporter now."
All right. So, Mbuto, what is it that you're going to scan?
Scan to, as you said.
Okay. You're going to obey orders.
Yeah, obey orders.
That's
at this point.
That's good. Do it. Okay. So the difficulty of this check, because of this building wavefront of energy, is going to be 2.
Ooh.
Yes.
All right. So
normally it would be 0, right? So this is
right.
But I will only have 2 dice. I believe this is still a reason science.
Yes, still reason and science.
So that's 13.
Mhm.
But I need to roll 2. under 13s. So I think at this point, Mbutu is going to be spending momentum.
We absolutely need it. I agree.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. It's all up to you. That's cheerleading, not consensus.
So let's just make this a little bit interesting. I'm going to buy one dice with momentum.
Done.
I'm going to buy another dice with threat.
Okay, so that adds 2 threat.
Good enough. Wait, add 2 threat. Okay, good. Go ahead.
1 die, second die, third
Mhm.
die.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Let's do it.
Okay.
This is a 14.
Any
for him.
focuses that Mbutu can apply?
Yes.
Scan interpretation?
Scan interpretation, yes.
All right. So my results are a 1, a 4, a 3, and a 17. So the 17 is obviously the failure. The
Right.
1's a 2 success.
Yep. So is the 4,
as
so is
for
the 3.
Yeah.
And
so
are
that's
all
again-
3 of those are under the focus as well, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Correct.
Oh,
Under the
nice
discipline.
roll.
So that should come up to about 6 successes.
That's only 6 successes that you've managed to accrue in the role of this very serious life
Oh
sciences officer.
man, we just Mbuto just got elevated to, he's bucking for a front screen credit rather than an end intro credit, right?
All right. 1
Right,
2.
an intro credit rather than an
So
end
he's-
episode credit.
featuring.
Yeah. And so as Dr. Mbuto.
Yeah. 1 2 3 4 5 6 in hand
Mm-hmm.
for things like
Right.
obtain information, create advantage,
All right.
etc.
So
Should we
2
save them? Right.
Now I would say 2 will go to the new advantage.
Okay.
New trait to sensor law, wherever the
Right.
away team are now.
Okay.
Right.
Is there anything else do we need? What are my options for buying with momentum?
Take a look.
Oh,
No rush.
Yeah, I'll take a look down at the rules.
could we
review.
get an advantage by, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
Could we make an advantage for the timing of defense against the beam, whether movement or shields?
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, that'll be great.
As well.
All
In other
right.
words,
Perfect
we do it in such a timely way that it buys us an extra second or 2.
Or maybe
Well-
just reduces the difficulty for the evasion.
Right. Well,
actions.
this is all the same thing. Yeah. Reducing the difficulty is what I really want, obviously. So
Okay. That's what advantages do. They reduce the difficulty. So we can do it. We can absolutely do it that way. Okay.
So I was thinking, is there a possibility that we can apply a removal of complication with the momentum? Which is, I believe, quite different from creating an advantage? Or is that?
Right. That's if the
my
complication
brain's-
range has expanded,
Oh,
which-
all right.
which
Which doesn't apply.
I haven't sicked upon you yet.
as
This
if
is
we
just-
need an
this is just
expanded
naturally bad,
complication
yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
So how many does that leave? with us?
And
It's
Anthony's
another 2 more.
complications come pre-expanded as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, just wait.
Well, I mean,
2.
we've already spent 4.
Yep.
And if we keep the other 2 back into the pool, I think that can still work in our
Those
favor
extra
when we have
dice
to
are
defend
always
the
good to
demon.
have around, that's for
All right.
sure.
So
Yeah.
they
And we'll lose
are.
one in the next scene, so we still have 3 left. So that's
We got to
that's fine.
use this stuff. Yeah.
So they are
Um,
banked, and Mbuto's turn comes to an end. And Anya, looking down over the navigator's console, can see the information coming in from Mbuto about the rate of closure and the angle of attack of this expanding
Ah, Perfect.
wave
Okay,
of
and
particles.
so I'm right there with the helmsman, and without literally shoving them out of the way, it's much more of I just relay that information so that their trained fingers can hit the right things.
Right.
The real question is whether it's going to be shields. Maybe it's because I, as a player, am not entirely certain about shields, which are a little bit like the sensors. They do whatever and whenever, except when they don't. So I'm actually thinking about shields rather than impulse dodge. Is it Anthony? Is it an either or?
No, it's not
Oh,
an
it's not.
either
Okay.
or.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to just hit them simultaneously, or have the helmsman hit them simultaneously on my mark. All right. So transporter role, is that what we're up to, or is the role
That's
all
happening somewhere
encompassing?
else with other people. Just
Okay.
focus
So
on the bridge crew.
has the rescued group materialized in our transporter bay or not?
All right. So there's still confusion, and not confusion, but there's still it's chaotic, right? You are hearing the transporter operators talking to each other about boost this, shift that, right? Augment this, and as the process is ongoing, it's a very long and rough transporter ride, and then you hear, "We've got them."
Mark.
So the navigator,
Right. And so it's shields and impulse.
right, hits the
Right.
impulse power. The ship starts to glide forward. Remember, it's one of the traits of the Avicenna that she is maneuverable at impulse. Right.
That's what I was thinking exactly.
Right.
We have to dodge in shit. Getting instant warp drive isn't what we're after. Right. We need to be able to maneuver in difficult situations.
But this particular crewman is no Ensign Yang.
Right.
Right. So the shields are slowly cycling. You see the dots going around the
Well, in that you'll notice that Anya is right there with them on purpose, so that if the role necessary to do this is not going to necessarily be handled by the helmsman, but by Anya, because she's right there.
Anya can assist, that's for sure.
Yeah,
and this poor helmsman can have 3 dice.
Okay. Well, there are worse things than that. Okay. Do I roll the 3 dice now?
Yeah, go ahead. You can roll.
What are my targets? So I understand what's going on.
Okay. Well, this is all this crewman can manage is the difficulty 0 roll.
I see.
So there's
Anya simply? What happens if Anya simply takes over?
There are a lot of spill-off effects from that Anya would be aware of. The chain of command and but also what we've already narrated.
I see.
Right.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's do it.
Right on.
As narrated.
Yeah. So what this difficulty 0 roll is going to accomplish will be a mitigation of damage. Someone like an Ensign Yang probably could have got the ship out of the way.
Right.
This crewman, under pressure, even with the reassuring presence of Anya looming over her, is operating on a different, however, lower plane. All right, so let's make it happen. Roll 3 dice, please, and you're looking for 11s as your cutoff.
Okay, I roll 1 die under 11.
Okay. The ship normally seems so fast, but is agonizingly slow in this moment of heart-pounding tension as this wave of particles comes up from the planet. The poor helm operator is able to orient the ship so that the shields that are racing are toward that approaching wavefront. The communications officer yells out, "We're being scanned." Lights start to flicker. The main screen goes out. The ship rocks, right? And everyone is tumbling to the left across the bridge. Anya, who is not in the chair,
right,
is at risk of falling unless she can grab onto the console. It's such an extreme hit, right? But more horrifyingly, which Anya can clearly see as she's looking down, she was looking at that sensor data that was coming in, as she sees the wavefront, slamming into the shields of the Avicenna. Where it impacts against the shields, an arcing return of energy blasts down at the planet,
Oh.
detonating across the surface around the outpost.
Think. All right. Well, as we all, rock through this, Anya has one thing to say. As soon as the sound effects,
The lights come back up.
right as well, a little bit anyway, and she says, "Steady, everyone. We're all still here."
And Butu
Good.
struggles, steadies himself back on his console.
Right.
Immediately does a scan back on where that beam hit back on the planet. It does like an analysis of what it's actually doing to the planet.
And
Right.
and I'll say to Mbuto, now we know. Right. So so confirm to Mbuto that was a scan, not an attack, correct? Not a destructive attack, correct?
We'll have to see.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. In that case, all right. In that case, helm, shields down. Let the fucking thing scan us all it wants to, right?
All right.
We obviously the feedback is causing the trouble.
Shields drop. The energy burst dies. The scan,
Mm-hmm.
is continuing. We can see systems flickering. The computer consoles around the bridge are activating.
Helm, maneuver to stay in maneuver pattern. I'm not going to make it easy for them to scan us after all. No, don't maintain a stable course.
Evasive maneuvers.
Yeah, maintain maneuver, exactly. And so then, okay, lean back in the chair, breathe once. Jim, status of the patients. The captain.
All right. So you can see.
Get me the captain. And Jim, status. Oh God, I'm telling Jim everything. I am. Anya's just going everywhere. She's
So the
like,
communications
status
officer.
of the captain, status of the patients. What's up?
The communications officer contacts sickbay and reports back. We have the wounded in sickbay. Status is still unclear.
Is the captain present?
Captain is present.
All right. And then, she says, okay, thank goodness. She, of course, is assuming that the away team is all present. Right? Note the
Sir,
assumption.
says the communications officer, we still have this urgent communique from Starfleet Command.
All right. I'm liking Anya all of a sudden. Everybody, we just went through like crisis and this and that and all the rest, and she's like calm as, she's like, all right, the away team's back, we're still here. Fucking bonus all the way through. Okay. And she'll fold her hands and say, why, how nice. Please patch them through. Can you get that screen back up, please?
All right. So, of course, there are engineers who are, picking themselves up off the deck,
right.
Because they weren't
at
all prepared for this.
Did I not say steady, everyone? Up.
Right. So, one of them moves over to the auxiliary console, which is not too far from tactical. Right. One of Korsakov's men is, of course, at tactical.
Right.
It's showing signs of having been toughened up.
Oh, yes, of course.
And he snaps out a report that hit from the scan reduced shields by 70%.
Yeah, there's no point in keeping those on. It'll just be a drain. And clearly, just for clarity to that security person, and I will say, and those shields, the feedback from striking our shields seems to be what has destroyed our outpost.
And Buto can confirm that based on the devastation.
All right. So shields are flat out. We've put hundreds of our own people at dreadful risk. We meaning Starfleet. And we still have to figure out where the crew of the Potemkin actually is. But first, why? I'm certain that all the advice we're about to get from our command structure will solve all of our problems.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
So after a few fumbling moments, the engineer gets the main viewer back online, and there's a certain familiar look to the face of the person on the screen. They're not wearing a Starfleet uniform. They are wearing the insignia of the Federation Diplomatic Corps.
Oh, great, these guys. I'm going to look over at Embuto, and I'll even gesture with my head and shoulder in kind of a, come on over here.
Okay.
Right. So Embuto can leave his
Embuto,
station.
yeah,
Just
leaves
come,
his-
drift over if you want. Just drift over next to the command chair.
Now,
I kind of like
Embuto-
the idea of these two hardened non-careerist veterans are just going to be giving him the "and what do you want, asshole" kind of look.
Now, the ambassador, for that is what it is, introduces herself. Sorry, I should have said
Okay.
earlier, as Ambassador Yang. And where is your acting captain?
All right.
And Buto, in his terse manner, says, "You're currently looking at her."
All right. Oh, do we get like a point of momentum or some shit like that just for pure cool?
It's pretty awesome. But the rewards of being cool are coolness
Is
itself.
coolness itself. Yes, I'm familiar with the concept. All right then.
That should be a value now.
Oh,
So-
right. Yes. Well,
Consider it.
and that-
So, she turns to the side for a moment and, is talking to whoever's controlling this conversation, like, can you boost the signal? And then she's snapping to an aide. You told me the captain was a Vulcan, right? And then back to you.
it's not our job to clarify their information structure.
Right.
So I'm going to say we are currently engaged in a complex rescue operation, Ambassador Yang, and I appreciate your attention to our situation. Is there in some way that you can aid our situation?
Excuse me, who am I speaking with?
What's Anya's rank again?
She's a lieutenant,
Yes.
junior grade. No, she's not junior grade. She's a lieutenant.
Right.
I don't hear you.
This is Lieutenant Anya Smith, currently holding the con of the starship Avicenna, and I will belay. We will belay this call immediately because we are in a rescue circumstance. Unless you are at critical risk in some fashion we can help with, you must delay this communication.
I understand. I don't want to put any of your personnel at risk. I was merely contacting to verify the safety of my two sons.
We will.
And
Wait,
Buto,
I look at Embuto. I mean,
Embuto turns toward the
Anya looks at
communication.
Oh, okay.
Um,
And I say, all information will be relayed to you at the earliest possibility. And I'll even say softly, like actually go human, after all, and say, I understand and appreciate your concern. So, and then, all right.
Ambassador Yang out, and
Yeah.
and there's kind of this silence around,
Mhm.
right? Like, did we just get called by?
Yeah, someone's mommy. Seriously. But actually, I kind of feel that. I mean, I guess so. But I will also say, we all heard the captain earlier. We're together out here, and there are people who need us. And in that case, and I will say to Embuto, let's get it. And you know what? No, I'm not. I'm not going to go specially check for Ensign Yang. I'm not going to show special treatment or anybody. I
Right.
will say, let's get a full we still need a full status report from sickbay. Everybody. How Korshakov, Yang, the captain.
Right.
How many patients? What's going on? Right.
We're
Let's
still
do him.
assuming that Ensign Yang came back on the ship.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
assuming that.
Of course, I'm completely assuming that. I'm absolutely. And I'll say, sick bay on screen.
I'd like a presence plus command from Anya Smith to, I mean, the bridge is in chaos after all of this, and she's doing her best to bring
right.
things back together, and that she's fully capable of doing it, right? And the difficulty is 1.
Can I get an assist from Mbuto?
And Mbuto assist in something like this?
Just
Like,
getting the bridge organized and stuff. Be a good example, for God's sake.
We're the most, at least the oldest crew members, not the most senior. At least
well, he seems to be unflappable, the unflappable Mbuto, right? So sure, more like a silent assist. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
I mean, if everybody sees him, hopping, getting things connected and taken care of, then all the better. All right, then. So that means I roll 2 dice and Casey will roll 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
This will be a presence and command.
Presence and command.
So you go ahead, Ron, because you are the lead. I'm the assist.
Yes.
How many successes, Ron?
I have 1 success, and it is a 2. I'm not sure if Anya's foci are well known enough.
Right. Her foci are planned, but nothing is relevant. But
okay.
All right. So 1 success is what she needed, and Mbuto contributed.
And Mbuto rolled a 1.
Mbuto's my hero. Also no active focus, but now he's contributed 2 more successes. Right.
I think we need a couple of momentum stuck in there. What do you think of that?
Well,
or should we buy something else? Maybe I'm too momentum-y.
I could use with an advantage trait.
Yeah. So a specific advantage.
Let's just use Ubuntu's, Let's just use the momentum generator Ubuntu to do that.
So the specific advantage may be a degree of, I don't know how qualitative I am about this or technical, but I'm thinking in terms of a great deal of, what am I trying to say? A great deal of clarity. I want clarity among all the communications among everybody right now. And I mean social clarity.
Because
I'm not talking
works.
technical, but
when we create
an
advantage, like to keep it real simple for like what can't I do, the rubric is it makes something that was impossible possible. So a tricorder is actually an advantage that the Federation has created for all of its crew, right? It makes the impossible possible, or it will reduce the difficulty of someone. So you're not, you're the communications officer left in charge, and et cetera, et cetera. The ship was just hit. There was a massive detonation. Starfleet is calling, and so you want
I know
clarity of purpose.
Advantage. Right, here's the advantage then, is simply to punch the communications buttons in a way that every single place on the ship, particularly bridge and sickbay, but everywhere if possible, simply can tell exactly who they need to say to what to clarify the status.
Right. So the communications officer can be
right. And so, as a matter of fact, I might even do that by stepping over to the communications console, giving the shoulder clap to the person who is there, good job. But then the skilled switchboarder goes to work and goes click, to say this, say that.
Cool.
The bridge is stabilized socially. The ship is now, I can talk to whoever I want, and they're not going to go, what, but they said, none of that shit.
And plus, Anya has shown she can command.
Absolutely. Right.
All right. Now we're going to do a quick cut scene.
It's a teamwork thing with Mbuto, though. I have to say, the two of them together are extraordinarily warhorsey. I like it.
I like it indeed. We're going to do a quick cut scene to sickbay. So not a role playing scene, but
Oh,
a
thank God.
cutscene. And we can see the chief medical officer or the acting chief medical officer, Jim, laboring away at one bed, and we can see our acting captain laboring away at another because these
They're both med. They're the
injuries,
med dudes.
yeah,
They're
these injuries were insane. Plus, there are many more wounded here than the 5 that were rescued by that one team that went to the sub level. Remember, a different team was sent to the upper levels.
Right. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad they got out. I mean, they could have gotten those girders that fall, right? All starships have girders over the heads of the most important crew. We know that.
Yeah.
Right, that
To
are
pin them.
designed to fall on you. So it's
I'm trapped.
yeah, I'm glad they avoided the girder.
Right. So we saw a lot of technical and engineering crew that we rescued from the sub levels, and we're seeing security personnel and guys in blue jumpsuits,
Right.
rankers and crewmen are among the injured, and the injuries are horrible. From the upper levels, it's burns and it's chemical burns and things along those lines.
I suppose various technicians are identifying these in clinical terms. Right.
And the wall meter, dun, 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 and the life energy meter is dropping.
Just a little extra color equipment kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They've got like little like junior versions of those that you can patch onto like put on a patient's cot or bed or something, right? I mean, maybe it's not as
accurate,
inclusive of all of the diagnostics and everything, but it's a field version of that device.
That would be an ideal device to have on a ship like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a tiny little sick bay.
Right. Oh man, that's right. I can just see. I could if I were playing a character in that scene, they would certainly be looking at one of the bulkheads and going, we're knocking that out tomorrow. Refit or no, we'll do our own refit, right? That bulkhead's got to go.
And just as we cut away from the cutscene, as there's all this high level medical dialogue and urgency going on, we can see just for a second, like a nurse drops a tray of tools, of instruments, and we see the bald fist of Jim, and his antenna whip around, his head whips around, and his hand is rising, and then he, remembering the trait established earlier, he gets powerful grip on his emotion, and he says nothing. You can see him say nothing, and he just continues to work, as the heart monitor is beeping far too slowly. And we cut back down into the cargo hold with Korsakov and Yang.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so take it away, Yang. What do you say and do?
So where were we in the scene? You were looking for the...
Yeah, all I did was spot the guy on the barrel. That's all I did. Right.
Okay. I think Yang would start looking around for shuttles and maybe an exit for the shuttles. Maybe he has to go through comms to go through that stuff, some directory or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Cool. Well, in that case, while you're doing that, I'll also, I've got 2 things to do. I'll ask Yang, contact the Avicenna, see if you can, and then
I'll report back to the bridge.
We definitely need that. And so then I'll head over. And I don't know if anybody's even noticed it. Hi there, we're from a starship, right? And so, but at this point, I will, go up to the fellow and say, Lieutenant Korsakov from the USS Avicenna, we're here on a rescue operation. We've already got some of your people out.
Okay.
So first of all, that's one thing. And I do have a specific question, but I'll finish the greeting first.
Yeah, I'll set the stage for you, so this might answer some questions. So, it's several levels down, like we said. People are being organized, and security teams are moving through to look for injured and set that all up. The person in charge does seem to be medical personnel. So as Korsakov is making his way to that person because it's too far to yell and too noisy. And as Yang is looking for some way out of here, and he can do the communication on the way. Very quickly, we learn that yes, there are massive lifts for the type of cargo that's stored down here, like drilling machines and whatnot. They are currently unpowered. Possibly there's a solution that many of the engineers that are in this place can work up. And according to the wall charts, right, this part of the facility has been, dug into the mantle, right? And so it's pretty stable, but this is where all the heavy equipment is.
Right.
And so the shuttle bay, the very large hangar, not a bay, is on the surface level if it has survived.
Up. Right. If we can lift up there. Okay, so that's all good news. So I will get over to the person and introduce myself in the fashion that I have just stated.
Right. So their head whips around and says, "Not a moment too soon." Right.
We have shuttles. And so that, and I can say, one moment, Yang, any contact?
So have I reported to? In this
No.
case, I think I'll report to Bridge, not Anya first.
Yeah.
So, or do I need to make a check?
Report to the bridge. Yes, you need to establish communications. You are far underground, and what Yang, of course, doesn't know.
Are you going to pull a no signal on us now?
The dice have control over everything. It is
This is
possible
the
to establish
comms.
communication. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficulty 1.
Difficulty 1.
Yeah.
So what I'm interested in trying here is, can I get someone to assist me?
With your communicator, I'm going to go with no on that one.
No, with the comm to establish communications.
There's no power.
Oh, right. So it's not like
Oh.
there's equipment down here. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm still using my own communicator with the difficulty 1.
Yep.
No,
But it flips
Alright,
open,
that
which is cool.
works. Yeah. That still works. It still works. So this will be a what plus con?
This will be reason,
Plus
computers, right? Science.
reason plus con.
Reason
Target
plus
number 12.
science.
Reason plus science. Reason plus science. Ooh, target number 10. Yeah. Well, I think. Yeah. I have nothing that I can use. Not even a determination for this. All right. Here we go. Reason plus science, which is a 10. I rolled a 17 and a 9.
All right.
All right. So you
the
got one
one.
success. Unless you roll a 1 and you want to celebrate, just tell me how many successes
Right.
you got, because it all starts to stack up in my head as numbers.
Right.
Right,
How many success? So you get 1 success, which is awesome.
Just one, barely one.
All right. So a weak signal is established, and it's not Anya, right? Of course, because Anya, when you left, had been given the con, right?
Yes.
Right.
All right. And
So Ensign is going to report the number of people that's in the cargo hold, and then you're going to tell that we need a confirmation that the surface area above the cargo hold is safe for shuttles to come in.
Mhm.
That the area is still relatively unharmed because
All right.
we can't transport all these people. Right?
so Ensign Mbuto, and we have to really wonder, why is Mbuto an ensign? Did his rank get decreased for some reason?
We've something tells me the Avicenna, at least in its recent history, certainly has had to the crew, and we still don't. I mean, remember the whole captain situation, right? Relieved of command thing. I think some decisions had to get made on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, that may have been. We can learn what they are later, but I bet they didn't really pass Federation or Starfleet muster.
It's kind of
upon
interesting.
review for one reason or another. Yeah.
But yeah, still a very successful ship. that
yeah.
a certain ambassador has suddenly demonstrated an extreme interest.
Yeah, we'll
In.
deal with that. That's
So,
Captain Telex problem, haha, not mine. Okay, so
all right. So, here's what's going on. So that's communicated, and Yang is patched through to Mbuto. All right. So the communications officer, doing what Anya has set her up to do, passes her over directly to Mbuto, who can coordinate and sends to Yang's tricorder the current plan of the surviving facility, right? So it's
in that case, can I, if since he established communications, is my communicator going to be a problem, or is that a separate role?
that will be separate if necessary. But
In that case, okay, go ahead.
So,
Yeah.
so you guys are now in different areas, right? And he went off looking for looking for shuttles or other things. So he's over by the elevators and is getting a report sent to his tricorder of the layout now post collapse.
Right.
And while Mbuto is sending the information, he says, "I think your mother called."
And Ensign Young was like, what?
I didn't know you had a brother. Earlier, you may have noticed I spent 2 threat. That was to introduce an interesting complication.
Okay.
Recently assigned to the USS Potemkin, unbeknownst to Ensign Yang, is Ensign Yang's brother, his older brother.
So my take in that case, since he's talking over there, since I'm not in communication with the Avicenna, but this is really important. It looks like this guy actually has things well in hand. So I'm going to say we should start preparing everybody for getting up on these lifts for transport out. According to my latest information, the crust is actually unstable planet-wide. So not even this facility is going to last. I mean, your engineering is already completely shot. We just got out of there. We got some of your people out of there. But we need to get imminent, right? We got to get everybody lifted up on those lifts. So hey, where did Yang go? Excuse me.
All right. So he's looking for Yang.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Lieutenant Korsakov sees the crates that are stacked around the medical officer. They're just like...
He was on a barrel, but
he was on a barrel. There's crates around him, right? There's people laying on the ground and leaning against the crates.
So I turn around and like come nose to nose with the crate.
Basically.
Crate. What's in it?
Inside are random broken artifacts, like from an archaeological dig. Remember, a lot of this was dug out.
Right.
And the artifacts
Mm-hmm.
have the same design aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is something that I was interested in because I was anticipating, since I wasn't up on the bridge, I was anticipating eventually going, wait, the beam emanated from the middle of the planet? Ancient tech, right? Focus. But confronted with this much more, this unexpectedly early opportunity to do this, I'm going to take it for sure. So, that's an instant distraction. And of all things, too, I mean, Korsakov's like ready with his fist, ready with his phaser, ready with his, hoisting patients, ready with his manly man trip. And all of a sudden he goes geek.
Right.
Whoa.
Now, here's something a little odd that I would like to do, right? So we've just hit Ensign Yang with this report that his older brother, his Ambassador Yang is asking about my sons. Right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So where is my brother? Where is my brother? At the same time, right? We get a whip pan around to Korsakov
Mhm.
face to face with different technology, but it's obviously the same culture.
Well, yes, the viewing audience is, of course,
Has no idea
if I may,
yet.
if I may speak in these terms, this is a whole new trip for them.
Right.
This whole, maybe even like with a musical chord for Yang, brother, my brother,
Dun-dun. Yeah.
and then over to Korsakov, it's like, woo, 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 woo,
Right.
right,
And
as
then
he spots
we
yeah.
cut to an exterior scene, a slightly, well, a much cleaner Lieutenant Korsakov,
Okay.
Ooh,
much
nice.
cleaner.
Nice.
Hairstyle, little different, just different
Right.
enough. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's an exterior scene, but it's no less peaceful. Ensign Korsakov is obviously just heard screaming. Right. And with Ensign, or not Ensign Korsakov, sorry, I'm mixing up.
Well,
Lieutenant
could be Ensign
Korsakov.
Korsakov.
With Korsakov is Ensign and Buto.
Right. Uh-huh. The
Right.
two of us. Mhm.
Right. And we can hear the sound of the transporter. They've just beamed down into something terrible.
Right.
Right. There is in the distance, we're looking over their shoulders of the scene, is just rolling hills. There is a shuttlecraft. Right. Crouching at the rear corner of the shuttlecraft, right, is one of your security officers.
Mhm.
Lying dead at his feet is another one of the security officers,
Right. Uh-huh.
right? Or stunned or something.
Right. Mhm.
Right. And we can hear phaser blasts and we can hear yelling. We can hear mindless screaming more than anything else. What would you like to do?
This is in my exterior
Memory.
scene.
Yeah.
Okay. In this case, I'll say to Mbuto, but we could be wrong about this thing. We could be wrong about it. We can't just and then there's more screams and he'll so I'm challenging my we could be wrong. I'm going to complicate, not challenge. I'm going to complicate my value.
All right.
Right.
So
And so I will visibly struggle with, but we could be wrong about this. And then I will agree. And we actually get this alien artifact, which we have just obviously recovered, right? And activate it.
okay.
Is that all right, Anthony? Did I pull in too much?
Yeah, a little bit too much, but it's all right. We can go with it, right?
Okay.
So here we are. We'll pan in on the back of the shuttlecraft, right? You know how the back opens up, right? So there's this alien artifact.
Right.
Okay. And as the two come around, we pan around the collar, right? Or the sleeve of
Yes.
Ensign Mbuto, who doesn't have ensign's rings. He has lieutenant commander's rings.
Right. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So as we close, as we move in on the back of the shuttle, inside the shuttle, heels, dancing on the deck, right? Mouth foaming is Captain
Absolutely. Right.
Stian Anders.
Right?
Absolutely. Right.
Next to the alien artifact.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So is that good for the exterior scene?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So now we're back in the cargo bay. Yeah.
So I'll just clap my hand on the edge of the crate, kind of as a mnemonic device, don't forget that. And then I'll shout, Yang! I'm just done looking. Just shout, Yang! Yeah.
Yang comes running towards Korsakov, tricorder in hand, shows him the plans, and he says,
okay,
there's
no way we can we only have 2 working shuttles. Our new shuttle isn't ready. I was down there. I mean, I was down there with Jim, and the new shuttle is completely borked. It's not ready at all. We
Right.
only have our 2 old shuttles.
And these are medical shuttles, meaning they have a
Yeah, they're
smaller
medical, but they're
capacity.
not as spiff as the new one,
They're not,
right?
but they
So,
they also aren't
right,
arranged for seating, right? They're not.
right,
They can't
right,
carry as many people.
right. So I'm going to say we're down on our shuttles, but the Potemkin has everything. It's a hospital ship. Tell Anya, or no, Telek says and he doesn't say Captain Telek. He's not used to it yet, right? So he says,
Tell the commander.
no, not even
Not
that.
even
He
that.
says,
Just his name.
yeah, just his name. It's like, tell Telek we have to get the Potemkin's resources. We have to use the Potemkin.
All right.
Presses his tricorder and calls back the bridge. Says, we have too many down here. We can't use the shuttles. We need the Potemkin.
Yeah, and we're lifting them to the surface right now.
Right. So looking at the time, I'm going to slowly bring this one to an end. So the local doctor coordinates with Korsakov and Yang, getting everybody moving, trying to reactivate the power, and the communication is and the last sight before we go to commercial, right, is the Potemkin hanging,
Right.
empty
Right.
in space over the shoulder of the Avicenna, and,
Absolutely. Right.
and we cut to
Right.
commercial.
When people eat Doritos, one good crunch leads to another.
All right.
There you go.
Thoughts and feelings before we go. We've got like 5 minutes.
Oh, Casey, go for it.
Great, real great. I'm loving complications introduced involving characters' back to story. Yeah, I feel there's a lot more going on now. I think we are getting kind of comfortable with each other now as players.
Right.
We know our timings, we know how to play the characters that we want them to play them in ways. Definitely more advanced techniques being employed with supporting characters, which I also like. And yeah, they have become, they have like stories that we didn't know about them, and we want to know about them now. So I think, yeah, it's great session all around.
Cool.
This is a game in which it would be really easy to lose track of all these nuances of the characters because we're just rocketing our way through problem of the week. Let's make the right decisions for the problem that we're facing. How can we get the 2 factions to hug on the planet? How can we find the serum in time, or any of those things, right? And if we had complicated NPCs, like all these different people with all their opinions, right, we would be really immersed in that. We don't want our Starfleet characters to look stupid, right? They can fail, but we don't want them to be incompetent, so we're really focused on that. But we're all walking around with all these values, and we're all walking around with all of our life paths, and we're all walking around with our implied richness of character. It'd be real easy to see one side of those, fall away. And so it's a little bit like, you make up your really complicated, highly psychologically nuanced vampire character, and then it's all about doing what the prince says. Right.
Let's fight crime.
That's what I'm talking. Exactly. So the point that I'm talking about here is that you've got Anthony in particular has the responsibility. There's 2 things you can do. One is simply to cross, which means elements from prior play or from information that or that we made up or whatever, just simply cross the field of vision at the same time, right? It's like the ambassador. We didn't have to get the ambassador's approval in order to solve our problem. It was just, it crossed right in front of us. And then the other one is a weave, where all of a sudden this is relevant to that in a way you didn't, expect. A weave is the brother, right? And
the alien artifact.
and also, I mean, he wove in something that he made up, but he could have wove something like you did with the alien artifact and Embuto. Those are two things that were not made up, right, either by you or by me necessarily, because I rolled the alien artifact. And then the business about being the acting captain from another player, and you have just woven them, not necessarily made up everything, but just woven them to show us that they're causally connected. That's why it's a weave. And these are the decisions that in this game are very much Anthony's, right? That's the equivalent of traditional prep in this game, right? Is because if you just made traditional prep and just left all that shit aside just as personal color, then
right.
3
episodes from now, we're going to deal with Ensign Yang's values, and then 4
that's
episodes
right.
from now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, seriously. And so that what alignment was my character again? I don't fucking know. I don't remember. Who cares, right? And so that's what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking about those techniques and how, with attention toward them, the game gives us a lot to cross and weave. And so that's nice to see. There's my ongoing thing. When and if, when will we fail? When will we fail? When will a roll fail? When will it have plot relevant outcome that we fail? As opposed to, oh, well, I guess I'll just try my communicator later, right? Not that kind of fail. I mean, like a true fail out.
Right.
And I'm not saying it can't happen. It's just, I'm interested mechanically when and if this system, kicks you in the teeth.
Well, the very first roll of the very first session,
right,
kicked you in the teeth, but it's a very slow moving kick. It hasn't hit you yet.
Okay.
So
that's good enough. I get that.
That's hanging out there.
Right.
But no, I understand, like, because we've got a pretty large range on the dice in many situations where a roll is called for. And I would consider the evasion of the particle beam is a failure. It was a she can't even roll kind of situation.
Right.
So what becomes interesting for me is Anya's so dead set, right, in your hands when Anya shifts from background character to player character. She's so dead set on helping this helmsman, right, rise to the challenge.
Right.
And that becomes interesting. So what? She fails. She doesn't get the ship out of the way. The ship gets hit by this beam. It's devastating to the planet below. It's awful, right? She's going to have dreams about this forever. Like, what if it hit the outpost? And what if they're not telling me something, right? That kind of stuff.
You know what? It's funny too, because I almost stayed with impulse alone. Yeah. But yeah, go on though. Carry on. Yeah.
So there you go, right? And it's these decisions get made. So what did this person who's a part of the crew in the ship that is not empty, doesn't just have 3 people on it, right? What did she contribute? And maybe somewhere down the line, this character will move from background nameless character to
clearly supporting character issues can come up. In terms of the vagaries of television, and I don't necessarily mean we have to emulate this. I'm changing topic to just thinking about the medium of television. And this applies actually to a lot of creative media, but particularly with episodic television, is that so many of the creative decisions or content is so pragmatic. Some actor just couldn't tolerate the makeup, so that character's gone.
What happened to Chuck Cunningham?
Well, there's lots and lots of others too. I mean, contractual issues, gossip about this runs rampant through fandom, but I'm not interested in it as gossip. I'm actually interested in that phenomenon in all of its ways. What does this instrument look like? It looks like the salt shaker in the restaurant down the street. Really, right? the point is that I take that as the default, not as the exception. There isn't the default of the genius, scripted, visionary, consistent, perfectly orchestrated. We know what the transporter does. We know what the phasers do. We know, this, we know that.
Right.
And it's all settled. And then we have these little problems that create amusing fan anecdotes of minor consistency failures, right? That's not the way it works at all. It's all backwards.
Right.
And so, any consistency to the verse, the fans fucking make that up.
Right.
Right. And so the deal with this in our case has to do with when and if a character who is genuinely interesting, or we could see that they would, have an opinion, when and if they become supporting characters. And I can definitely, in an ideal world, all of them would, and we would end up with 82 supporting characters, right? But it's not, sooner, there will be some who get lost, if that makes any sense. There will be some.
You already have some favorites, right? Anya has been present in
totally.
virtually every scene.
Right. Well, we definitely have. I kind of like the idea of having genuinely separate episodes, so that you have slightly different profiles of supporting characters.
Right.
It makes sense in a given episode that you kind of stick with your supporting characters.
Yeah.
But I do like who we have so far. But I'm just thinking, I'm sure we can go back to that first season and see any number. Whatever happened to that, that romantic psychologist in Dagger of the Mind,
right?
who, despite being a little weird regarding Kirk,
I know.
On the other hand, and I just rewatched this, on the other hand, defeats a brawny man in hand-to-hand contact by kicking him into an electrical console and killing him.
No joke.
And not like by accident either. It's not like he stumbled and like blundered into the console. No, she kicks him into it and he gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, I don't I don't think I've seen like a female character, and not like flailing and eking and, being kind of a girly fighter. No, she literally fights the guy and kicks him in there. And you're like, bring that bitch back. She's awesome.
Yeah. You never see her again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Never.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't see, Dr. Mbenga very much either.
No, just and he was a good actor too.
He really was, yeah.
Yeah, they got him on there, and he did. African name too, right? I'm just like, I wrote an article about this for my comics blog when I was talking about the original appearance of the Black Panther. I won't bore you with all the details, but there was an organization in Southern California in the early and mid 60s that was called the US organization. US. It didn't stand for anything. Us just meaning us, right? And it was the Pan-African Black sort of back to our roots organization. And it was led by a guy named Karenga, Ron Karenga. Actually changed his name to Karenga because that's where everybody started taking African-esque names. That's where it started, was with this organization. The holiday Kwanzaa was actually invented and instituted by them. So that's like the one lasting feature of the US organization, is the existence of Kwanzaa on the calendar. It varied from being, pride in our heritage, now let's move ahead with the American dream, which is one way of doing this, to more of a separatist approach that said, look, we're going to become more autonomous, as a political entity here in the United States. So there was that going on. The FBI actually put special effort into driving a wedge between the US organization and the combination of different groups who called themselves the Black Panthers around the country. There was never a single Black Panther organization. There were a number of them that moved into an alliance. And so the one in Southern California, which is where Huey Newton was, they actually, on campuses, the FBI made sure to set the two organizations against each other by writing false letters to the leaders with the other leader's signature and stuff like that. And so, but the point is that they also promoted learning Swahili, which is it's actually not a single language in Africa. It's a Pan-African language used for trade. So Swahili was the language that the US organization started giving classes in. And the word uhuru.
Yeah.
The word uhuru is a Swahili word that was used by the US organization. So that being there in Southern California and it having a very positive image at the time, this is where American Black people started wearing dalikis and stuff like that, the Nigerian robes and stuff. And it was all through this organization. And so it's brutally obvious that Uhura is a direct reference to the US organization.
Yeah.
And Mbenga would definitely be right there in that whole imagery as well. So it's that organization has more or less been lost to history in terms of reference and things like that. But its impact on comics and TV is really, really obvious from the early 60s.
Yeah, it's cool.
So,
But yeah, I really would have liked to have seen that character more.
Yeah.
He just grabs your attention the second he's on the screen. And it's not just because he's like wailing on Spock, like, oh, he needs to be punched in the face. But
that's right. But he's obviously expert in something that the staff of the other Enterprise, is less so. He's McCoy treats him with distinct respect, which is not something McCoy does for everybody.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I mean, and there's plenty of details like that. Again, these are all it's clearly in the moment of who do we get for this script, or even stuff like we've got to pad out a mock time. We've got 30 minutes of running time by this script.
Right. Yeah.
What are
and
we
the crew goes
stick
crazy. Just one line.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, exactly. It's like, what are we going to do now? And it's like, well, I don't know. Call Harlan. He'll write a scene for us. Right.
Anyway, gents, I do have to depart, but I had a lot of fun with this one. And it's interesting my prediction of, we can do it like in 4 hours of play, whatever. But so we'll have a part D to round out this episode. We've reached the part where we can see the end in sight, right? Korsakov and Yang are coordinating to get the resources of the Potemkin brought in. And
we have one more remaining mystery of what on earth happens.
What happened? Although it's not really, it's not really your duty to solve it. It's your duty to deal with it. So it's kind of interesting, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I look forward to coming reflections, if any. I mean, this episode, this was just another piece, right? But if there are reflections,
I'm sure Casey and I will find any number of things to talk about. That's not.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody noticed that the "What Were You Thinking" video never got released for Part B.
Yeah, I didn't see one.
It's still sitting on my hard drive, and it's like 39 minutes long. So,
wow.
So apparently I was thinking a lot. I recorded it while freezing to death in my car, waiting for my wife to come, and it took her a long time to come. So the dialogue just went on and on. So I'm in the. Do I want to cut these parts out, or do I just
where did I blither? Let's get rid of that. Let's find the blither sections and get rid of those.
But I'll try and release it before I release this. And so
Okay.
it has some context. Anyway,
All right.
thanks for playing.
Have a good time, everybody. Take care.
All right.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Bye.